What's up, guys? We are back again with another YouTube video. So I want to talk to you guys about political differences in dating and how to handle political discussions while dating. Because as you guys know, the midterms are coming up in just a few days, and it's going to probably be a shit show as it was before. It's getting to actually be more and more of a shit show as time goes on. And so the question is, what should you do? How can you, as a man, most likely a conservative or politically independent man, what can you do to not get caught up in some stupid political conversation with a girl? So I'm going to explain this to you. I'm going to break it down. The first thing is to actually assess what are your objectives when it comes to dating. So are you dating just to have sex, to hook up with girls? Or are you dating for something more serious? Are you looking for a relationship with a girl who shares your values? If you're looking to just hook up, then you absolutely want to avoid political conversations in, I would say, the vast majority of cases. There's an exception we'll talk about. Generally, you're going to want to avoid these topics. And the reason is because even though you disagreeing with a girl, let's say, you're a Trump supporter and she's a total shit lib, she's going to get really upset about the fact that you're a Trump supporter. But there's also a level of tension there, especially if you're like, well, I don't care. I don't really care what you think. There's a level of tension that gets created there. There's a level of alphaness, so to speak, from you not taking the bait, not getting reactive, and you not changing your opinion based on what she says. But while that can be used to your advantage, generally speaking, it's more trouble than it's worth. The extra tension and desire you create, you can really have the entire interaction with the girl derailed, because then she'll just keep returning to it. She'll keep focusing on it, because what happens is that women develop this sort of cognitive dissonance. Like, you're an attractive guy, she wants you, but then she needs, like, you're this quote unquote racist, white supremacist, fascist, whatever, insert bullshit programming that she has in her. And so she has to reconcile the fact that she's attracted to a guy who, by her programming, is evil. And so she has to deal with the fact that she's attracted to you and you're this kind of guy. And so she wants to change that you're that kind of guy. She has to have a reason to not think of you that way. And what tends to happen is that she's interested, but she's not going to want to, she's going to get so pissed off that she'll want to leave. Sometimes what happens is that she'll sleep with you, but there's no long-term potential, which is fine if your goal is something more casual. But it's easier to get girls on a casual basis by avoiding the political discussion altogether, and you just being an attractive guy, because it can take the focus away from the two of you vibing. If she starts to bring up politics, the key thing that you say is like, oh, I don't really follow that stuff, or I think the whole thing's bullshit, right? To not care about it, to not get into the conversation. You can tease her about being boring if she's talking about politics. Like, are you one of those activist girls? You do this on every date, talk about politics, stuff like that. Throw her off a bit. And again, if you're being casual in this situation, you can even lie. You can say, well, who did you vote for? Say, I didn't vote. You may get some radical girls who are going to, in this circumstance, they're still going to push, well, how could you not vote when we have a fascist? At a certain point, you have to be like, is it worth my time to continue to interact with this girl? You're not looking to deal with a super, super crazy girl. If your objective is to have a serious relationship, then I don't think it's a bad thing to bring up politics or to allow politics to be brought up. I don't think it's a bad thing, because what you're essentially doing is you're screening for values. You want that girl to reveal herself fairly quickly. Some people will do this on the first date, and you don't have to do it directly, like, who did you vote for? But you can make some kind of offhand comment about, like, craziness going on politically, and see how she responds to it. Some guys if they're really, really serious about trying to find a girl who fits their values, they'll just be very direct about it. Like, where are your political leanings? That's something very heavy, though. I don't personally like doing that stuff on first dates. I think the first date should be just about Attraction should just be about mutual compatibility. You know, it should be finding out, are you guys actually drawn to each other? Do you actually enjoy being with each other? If that's not there, then there's no point having the political conversation. And I feel like you can get into way too much of a platonic territory with politics. So it's something that like I think is better for second or third date, especially because you can kind of already assess where a woman's at. Like you can kind of already assess, okay, she's this kind of woman. She's this way politically. She's like, you can already kind of get a feel for it based on how she dresses, you know, based on how she behaves. It's not a lock. There are some girls who act very feminine and are very level-headed, but they're super liberal. And then there's girls who are really kind of off in many ways, but they're conservative. There's a lot of that actually. So it's not a certainty, but a girl comes over to you and she's like super tatted up all over and she's like boss bitch or whatever. I mean, there's so many different archetypes, but you know all these various you know super liberal archetypes. Then it's just not going to mesh. And by the way, if a liberal guy happens to be watching this, you can do the same thing in the opposite. You know, if your girl has a septum piercing and is a pig, then you know that she's probably a liberal. So there's a lot of, you know, so you don't have to, you can suss that out from the very beginning, right? She's got, you know, pink hair and is angry and pissed off. She's probably a liberal. So you're in your right demographic there. So that's really the main takeaways here when it comes to dealing with sort of political related topics. The main thing I would say though, this is the most important thing that you guys have to internalize, is you don't want to be reactive. Do not be reactive. Don't get upset. Don't get baited into arguments. Arguments are incredibly unattractive. They're always unattractive. They never turn a girl on, and they're not persuasive. You want to not talk about politics, right? If she brings stuff up, you just want to not, you know, be non-reactive to it. You can be matter of fact and, you know, say, okay, that's your opinion. That's your opinion, you know, but you want to be cool and collected, because on a certain level, her gauging, you know, and challenging your political beliefs is a test. It's a test of your frame to see if you're going to comply with her just to try to get in bed. Never works. If she thinks that you're a liberal and you fake it, that's one thing. But if you're conservative, but then you try to like be reasonable, it's totally unattractive to her. So she's testing you on that level, but she's also testing to see how emotionally reactive you get about it. Because a lot of guys, you know, political tensions are so high, they actually get pissed. So they want to fight with her. And that's another test, because it's a test to see how level-headed you are, how actually anchored in your beliefs you are. Because if you feel the need to argue with somebody else, if you feel the need to fight with them, then it's an indication that you have some insecurity. Like you need other people to agree with you. And as a man, you shouldn't need anybody else to agree with you. You shouldn't need her to, at this juncture, agree with you. Now, you can't, one of the things you do want to set up for the future is that, you know, you're going to be operating in a certain way. If she's really liberal and she's into trans stuff and she's, you know, trans rights and she wants to raise your kids non-binary, I mean, you have to be very clear, like, okay, this is not going to work. Like, you have to be willing to set your boundaries around this kind of stuff and assess, where are we really looking here? Like, where is this relationship going to go? A lot of girls at the end of the day are frankly apolitical. And this is the last thing I'll talk about here, is there's a lot of draw, like guys want to get other conservative girls, and that's great. You know, if you're a conservative, more independent guy, you want a conservative, more independent girl. Like, makes perfect sense. Easy values match. There's a lot of comfort and trust that's built from that. But the reality is that even really conservative girls can sometimes be more in their masculine. They might have a shared values with you, but they can also be kind of combative because they're also caught up in this whole fight. The most feminine girls are usually apolitical because politics is a masculine domain. So a more apolitical girl who's like, yeah, you know, I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, yeah, that seems stupid. You know, this is the kind of girl who's going to align with you anyway. Because if you are a strong masculine guy, your woman is going to essentially move towards your political beliefs. And of course, you want to get a woman who is maybe good clay to work with, but you being confident in your beliefs, for most women, if she's attracted to you, she's going to start to correspond with that for the most part, because women are fundamentally social chameleons. They follow what people around them do, and they especially follow what authority figures tell them to do. The reason that most women today are liberal is not necessarily just a distinction about how women are by nature, that they're more liberal. The Nazi party was backed more by women than men. The reason for that is because women follow authority. So whatever is culturally sanctioned, whatever is promoted by the government, promoted by corporate media, that's what women are going to align with. And so this is the last thing I'll close with, is that a lot of guys are really frustrated about this, because you have a lot of, there's a disparity. There's more men who are conservative than women who are conservative. And it's a lot of guys struggle with dating because they meet a pretty girl, but then she's really liberal. There's a values clash. They can't seem to find a girl who meshes with them. I know this is frustrating. And what I will say is that things are changing. And as things change in the macro position, as liberalism starts to lose its cultural cachet and status, you're going to start to see women shifting dramatically away from it. And you're already seeing this happen. It's been moving very, very rapidly. And I think over the next 2 years, it's going to hit like a crescendo. It's going to start to move really, really exponentially, because women follow ultimately where the strong men go. And so initially you had men who were against this stuff and they were alone, but as they've grown in influence, the manosphere, for instance, has grown in influence, you've seen tons of women come into it. And as those women pour into the manosphere is actually less men than it was before proportionally. It's still majority men, but we are going to get to a point where the manosphere is majority woman, and that you're going to have the weak men left in the old system who are the last ones to jump, because that's how it always is, right? The women go where the male virility is, and it's coming towards us. So hold out hope. Don't get into political conversations leading up to the midterms. Do not get into political fights over Thanksgiving or Christmas with your family. It's low consciousness. Just focus on other topics with the people you love. But remember, at the end of the day, if you are going to get into a really intimate relationship with someone, it's important for you to have a woman who either is with you already or is willing to go with you. Because if you can't express who you are around a woman, then that's the end of intimacy. You can only be so intimate with a woman who you can't fully express yourself around. So remember that. You're looking for a woman who accepts you fully and aligns with you, not a woman who you have to self-censor around. If you have to self-censor around a woman, your relationship is never going to be deep, and you're always going to feel like you're trapped. So appreciate you guys checking in again. If you have to deal with some political issues in your relationship, or if you're struggling to date in the current political climate, apply to work with me. The link's below. I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.